I got that here. I already. And you said, what was his name again? And is he white, black, or Hispanic?
I'm Hispanic.
What's he wearing?
I don't know, because he's not here right now. That's
when he left, what was he wearing?
Sweetheart, it's okay. What?
Right, the police are on the way. Talk to them when they get there. Okay?
I
told you they're on the way. Talk to them when they get there, okay?
All right, okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
She made that call after she was able to look out of the house where they were being held and flag down a neighbor.
I heard screaming. I meet my McDonald's. I come outside. I see this girl going nuts trying to get out of the house. So I go on the porch. I go on the porch, and she says, help me get out. I've been in here a long time. So, you know, I figured it's a domestic violence dispute. So I open the door, and we can't get in that way because how the door is, it's so much that a body can't fit through, only your hand. So we kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, call 911. My name was Amanda Berry.
Now, did you know who that was when she said that?
When she told me, it didn't register until I got the call in 911, and I'm like, I'm calling the 911 for Amanda Berry? I thought this girl was dead. You know what I mean? And she got on the phone, and she said, yes, this is me. The girl Amanda told the police, I ain't just the only one. It's some more girls up in that house. So they went up there, you know, 30, 40 deep, and when they came out, was just astonishing.
Police moved in, swarming the house, rescuing the women. They arrested a 52-year-old former school bus driver who lives there, Ariel Castro. They also arrested his two brothers.
They made some statements to the responding officers that gave us enough probable cause to effect their arrest.
The rescued women were taken to a nearby hospital and checked out. A photo of a beaming Amanda Berry and her sister appeared on Facebook.
Currently, they're safe. We're in the process of evaluating their medical needs. They appear to be in fair condition at the moment. This is really good because this isn't the ending we usually hear to these stories, so we're very happy.
That sense of happiness and relief shared by police.
It's a great day.
And the people of Cleveland.
It's an unbelievable day.
Martin Savage, CNN, Cleveland, Ohio.
North Korea's words seem to be contradicting its actions. On the one hand, Pyongyang is issuing a new threat to South Korea and the United States. On the other, U.S. officials say the North has withdrawn missiles from a launch site near its east coast. The apparent mixed signals are raising new questions about Pyongyang's next move. For more on that story, we turn to CNN senior international correspondent Dan Rivers.
President Obama's foreign policy pivot to Asia, relations with South Korea have never been more important or better. Newly elected President Park Geun-hye has already met Secretary of State John Kerry, but this will be her first official meeting with President Obama, a chance to celebrate 60 years of the US-South Korean alliance. But the trip will also be a personal milestone in President Park Geun-hye's troubled family history. Her campaign videos show the large scar across her face sustained after a razor attack in 2006. Her father, President Park Chung-hee, was a controversial leader of South Korea in the 1970s, reviled by some as a dictator, celebrated by others as an economic genius. He survived 2 assassination attempts. During one attempt in 1974, his wife, President Park Geun-hye's mother, was shot dead. Park Geun-hye became de facto First Lady next to her dad, the bereaved president. But in 1979, he was also murdered by Korea's top spy. It makes Park Geun-hye's rise to the top all the more remarkable.
And if you take a look at Park Geun-hye, the first female president of South Korea, and Barack Obama, the first black president of the United States, these two are really unprecedented cases representing 2 very powerful countries and 2 strong allies over the course of the past few decades. So I think the chemistry and the dynamics will be very much in line with each other, and I think there'll be some positive results afterwards.
President Park grew up in this official residence, the Blue House. Now, as its incumbent, she's making the highly symbolic visit to the White House. 60 years after the Korean War, a conflict which never technically ended. During that time, America's alliance has been crucial, especially during times of tension, like the last couple of months. As a lawmaker, Park Geun-hye has met former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. But so far, she's not met his son, Kim Jong-un, a man whose leadership has so far been characterized by this year's rising tensions and aggressive rhetoric towards the United States. It makes President Park's visit to Washington all the more symbolic, cementing an alliance that was forged 60 years ago during the Korean War. The South Korean government has a slogan for this visit: bound by trust, forward together.
Authorities in Boston have said that the body of alleged bomber Tamerlan Tsarnaev is not welcome there. Now a controversy is brewing about where the deceased suspect should go. CNN's Gary Tuckman takes a look at the surprisingly difficult ordeal of burying the notorious.
Protesters are putting on the pressure, picketing outside a funeral home near Boston to say, "Don't bury Tamerlan Tsarnaev here." One sign says, "Bury the garbage in the landfill." The funeral home director, who currently has the body, isn't sure what he should do next.
What do we do with this guy?
One alternative, cremation. Some of America's most notorious criminals, like Timothy McVeigh, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Ted Bundy, were cremated. Serial killer Bundy's ashes were scattered in an undisclosed location in Washington state. The ashes of serial child killer and cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer, who was beaten to death by an inmate, were shared between his parents. Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh, who was executed in the federal death chamber in Indiana, had his ashes scattered in an undisclosed location by his lawyer. And further back in history, there's Adolf Hitler. After he killed himself in 1945, his body was burned by Soviet forces, leaving no trace. But for a Muslim, cremation is not an option, according to experts.
Cremation is not only not allowed, but it's actually forbidden. So cremation would mean that something happened to this man which would be outside the bonds of Islam itself, and that would be controversial, certainly in some circles.
Another possibility, burial at sea. That was used for Osama bin Laden after he was killed by U.S. Special Forces. The advantage? No marked grave, nowhere for protesters or supporters to find him. Which brings us back to burial. After the execution of Saddam Hussein, he was buried, but in relatively friendly territory, near his hometown of Tikrit. John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated President Lincoln, is buried in the family plot in Baltimore, although his resting place is not individually marked. Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated President Kennedy, is buried in a marked grave in Fort Worth, Texas, but he hasn't exactly rested in peace. His original tombstone was stolen, and his original coffin was auctioned. And then there's a strange case of another horrible man, John Wayne Gacy, convicted of killing at least 33 boys and young men in the Chicago area. His family has always been ambiguous about whether he was cremated or buried, and to this day, it's still not publicly known. Gary Tuckman.
Well, time now to take another break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and before we go, reminder of our headlines. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of the Gambia's latest quarterly report has provided a mixed assessment of the Gambian economy in terms of performance, challenges, and outlook for the future. The National Alliance for Food Security has trained members on ways of improving agricultural productivity and food security. Police in Cleveland have arrested a number of suspects following the discovery of 3 women who were missing for more than a decade, presumably kidnapped by the suspects. And U.S. officials have confirmed North Korea's withdrawal of long-range missiles from a launch site, but there is no shortage of Pyongyang's war rhetoric towards its neighbors. That's all in this edition of the news. Thank you very much for your time. On behalf of the news team, I am Fatou Kamara, wishing you all a very good night.